And so this question I really loved. I was asked what I thought was at the root of as facilitators struggling more often than thriving. Um, I'm going to, I think there's a bunch. I'm going to share well, I don't even know whether it's the top three. I'm going to share three. I think that's plenty. So, one thing that I observe again and again, and that I also realized for myself for sure, is a lack of business plan. I'm going to say it, and the right business tools. We as facilitators obviously take a lot of training in our modalities and we become specialists, and we're really, really good at what we do, how we support others. And so, why should we also know how to run a business or even think of it all as a business or consider business plans? I mean, where is that supposed to have come from, that whole knowledge, unless that maybe was your background way in the past? Um, so I think that is an aspect that overwhelms a lot of people when they first realize, or then they actually, after really quite a long time of trying and struggle, realize that there is a lot of business stuff involved. And, and that's the other factor in that, is that in a way we might have even become a facilitator or studied the modality that we do, become a yoga teacher or a therapist or something, because we wanted to turn our back on all of that business stuff, right? But then suddenly you start doing that work and you realize, oh, hang on a second, I actually have to now embrace it again. And so there's a little bit of an internal struggle with that too. But I also think that that part is being underestimated by quite a lot of people. And so if you don't actually have a business plan in place, as in if you offer what you offer often enough throughout a year, for example, to enough people, can you make an actual living of that? Does that generate enough income in the first place? And I don't think many people have actually gone through that exercise, for example. You simply can't make a living. So that's one point. The business side of it, yes, we've gone into doing what we do to potentially turn our back on the business, but actually, in my mind, it needs to be just as much a priority, and it needs to take up some space in your everyday work or every week in some way, depends how you structure it. And then I think to really step into that place of thriving, we probably need to spend some money on tools, possibly even an assistant and support or a team, I don't know. And that's always really difficult because we haven't got that money in the first place, but we get to that point where we can't really do it all by ourselves anymore. But we also haven't got the money to pay somebody else to help us or to invest in some tools or, whatever. So investing in our business, it's a big one, and I often also see that people are reluctant to do that in some way or do it too late. Also, these are just some thoughts on that. The point number two, very different to this, is about our nervous system capacity and the importance of meaningful self-care. Now, you may have heard me talk about this quite a few times already, as I go on about it all the time. I don't know if this is like the totality of your job description. In my opinion, at least half the page should be about your meaningful self-care routine. That should be your number one priority and part of your work. And that just very rarely is in place. But we need to be so grounded and nourished in our nervous system to have the capacity to hold that amount of space that we are holding for others. We, for some reason, get carried away and keep forgetting about it again and again, and we learn the hard way. And it just so often leads to burnout and overwhelm. So, yeah, that would be one aspect. And the third one is something that I also talk about quite a lot, especially if you've done my trainings, you might have heard me talk about it. It's about making space. It's kind of about priorities, I guess. If you don't make space for something, it's not going to really take off or happen. If you don't make space for relationships, your relationships will suffer. You may not have one. If you don't make enough space for your own health, you're not going to be healthy. If you don't make the space it takes to run your own business, to be self-employed, to be this facilitator and to thrive in this work, you are not going to thrive. It takes prioritizing. That is not to say that you have to prioritize it. There are other things that can be, for sure, way more important. So you make a choice in that, right? But from what I can see, if you really, really, really want to thrive in the work that you do, and do the work and love it and enjoy it and be even nourished by giving into your work, it takes making a lot of space for it. It also requires to make a lot of space for that meaningful self-care. Very important. Remember, that is half your job description. And it also requires making enough space for the business side of things. It is a lot. Therefore, it takes a lot of space. And I think I've kind of always talked about this, also in the context of making space for integrating your own work and things that you learn, and whatever you receive, we need to make more space for integration. But I really started talking about this after last year. I made a lot of space in my life by changing a huge part of my business and the way I run that. And that was all about making space for what I really, really wanted to do and what I wanted to grow, and where I shine. And because I realized that I couldn't shine in a certain part of my work, and actually the part of the work that I love the most, because of this other part of my business. And so I made some changes and I created a lot of space. And in retrospect, I then realized, like, oh my goodness, wow, this is like what making proper space really means. It's significant. It's not just the odd 5 minutes here or there. So yeah, like I said, I think there's probably a lot at the root of why we might struggle and not thrive. These are the main and first, I'm not going to say top, but first three things that come to mind.